I will be hailed as the benefactor of our species.
You're wrong. I, of all men, know that.
The majority of adaptations of Frankenstein share one primary thing in common. They aren't faithful to the book. So, what happens when someone sets out to make a major motion picture adaptation that is a faithful retelling?
Frankenstein!
Well, that's certainly big. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was released in 1994. Directed by Kenneth Branagh and with a script by Frank Darabont, this set out to be a true representation of the novel on the screen, following on from the fairly successful Bram Stoker's Dracula 2 years earlier. It stars Kenneth Branagh as Victor, Helena Bonham Carter as Elizabeth, and Robert De Niro as the Creature. If I had to think of a way to describe this film, it would be that it's very Kenneth Branagh. Everything in this movie is ridiculously big and overblown, from the sets to the performances to the cinematography. It's downright grandiose, bordering on operatic. And it kind of works, but not always. You see, Darabont's screenplay is clearly meant to be played more subtly than Branagh took it, so the movie kind of feels at odds with itself. Like, the Creature is made in a huge copper tank, and there's electric eels, and Branagh's running around shirtless for a good 5 minutes, and then him and De Niro roll around in the goo for a bit, and it all just feels a bit off, you know? And it's not just me who feels like this. It's also Frank Darabont. In an interview with Creative Screenwriting, he had this to say about the movie. I've described Frankenstein as the best script I ever wrote, and the worst movie I've ever seen. That's how it's different. There's a weird doppelganger effect when I watch the movie. It's kind of like the movie I wrote, but not at all like the movie I wrote. It has no patience for subtlety. It has no patience for quiet moments. It has no patience, period. It's big and loud and blunt and rephrased by the director at every possible turn. So it's essentially Branagh as an auteur, trying to impose his vision on a script that didn't fit it. But it's not always a bad thing. It leads to some moments that are just so bananas over the top, it becomes kind of fascinating to watch, and others where it's all just a bit silly. Whee! If there's anything about this bizarre operatic vision of the story that I like, it's the set designs. There's some real beautiful work put into these. They're so huge. I mean, who needs a hall this big in their house? There could be like 5 good-sized bedrooms. And those stairs! Those are not safe in any respect. And for all that it attempts to be a faithful adaptation, it still ends up changing a lot of stuff. Some of it to try and flesh out the characters and their relationships to each other more, which I can appreciate. Like, Elizabeth gets a lot more screen time dedicated to making you actually care about her relationship to Victor. But other changes are a bit questionable. Like when the maid Justine dies, rather than a trial and a hanging, this mob breaks her out of jail and lynches her by throwing her off the top of a wall. It's just so ridiculous, and it doesn't make the scene work any better, so I don't get why they did it. The best, and possibly biggest change they made, is that once Victor has denied the Creature his bride, and the Creature has killed Elizabeth, which even that has to be bigger so she gets set on fire as well as strangled, Victor brings her back to life. I think making the bride into someone Victor knew is a strong decision, and it's one that several adaptations have worked with, but then, before it can really amount to anything more interesting than her just being brought back, this happens. So that's a bit of a shame. When all is said and done, I do like this movie for the most part. It's not as good as some of the other films, and its over-the-top nature does tend to hinder it, but it's still quite an entertaining set overall, so I would kind of recommend it, but only to an extent. And next time, we'll be looking at a film by a very different kind of self-indulgent filmmaker. Thank you so much for watching part 7 of Frankenstein Month. Be sure to let me know what you thought of it in a comment below, and click on one of the links. They're somewhere around here. This is kind of a weird movie, but I'm glad it exists because it tries to be faithful, and it is unique.